Hey friends, it's Robin. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing the second to last recent reads of 2023. The next and final recent reads are just going to be any and all of the books that I read going into the end of the year. I want to wrap up all of my 2023 books so that there's no 2023 reads on any of my 2024 recent reads, if that makes sense. I want to go into the new year with a clean slate, and so we're going to do one final recent reads at the end of the month to wrap up all of the 2023 books. So I have 10 more books in this video. This recent reads is a pretty solid recent reads. I don't have any books that I didn't like. I have a couple of 3 stars, but I actually have quite a few 5-star books, which if you watched my last recent reads, is quite a big improvement. Some of these I will linger on more than others because some of these were in a vlog and I don't want to spend too much time rehashing things that you've already seen me talk about. The first book is What the River Knows by Isabel Ibanez, which I have talked about endlessly since reading it because I'm obsessed with this book. I originally gave this book 4 stars, and then I kept thinking about it, and this book will not leave my brain. I swear I think about this book like every day, and so I upped it to a 5-star. It ended up being my favorite book of November because it was just a book that I could not get out of my head. It's a YA fantasy where our heroine is from Buenos Aires and her family lives for half the year in Argentina and half of the year in Egypt. And she desperately wants to go to Egypt to be with her family and get to explore all of the things that they get to do in Egypt. Until one day, someone shows up at her house and tells her that her parents went missing in the desert and are presumed dead. And so she jumps on a ship and goes to Egypt and shows up there and is determined to figure out what actually happened to her parents. And the book is really about her uncovering all of these secrets. There's a slight romantic element with her and one of the other guys on the team. There are so many good themes in this book. It really explores colonization and the stealing of artifacts in history and culture, and I loved this book. I'm going to leave it at that because I, again, feel like I've talked about this book so much and I don't want to bore anyone with more of my ramblings. So 5 stars, read it. It's a great time. The next, 7 books were all in a vlog. So I'm going to link this vlog up in the cards and down in the description box. I did a 72-hour reading vlog where I read as many Thanksgiving novellas / romance books as I could over those 72 hours, and I read a lot of things. So we're gonna go over all of them pretty dang quick because again, I don't wanna bore anyone by rehashing things I've already said. A Match Made for Thanksgiving by Jackie Lau was a book that I got recommended from a couple of people. I think Heather from Hia Booktubes was the first one that I saw share this, but it was just a little audiobook novella that I got on Hoopla. It is about a meddling family who ends up setting up all of their kids with some blind dates, and our main characters end up having this amazing one-night stand together, and when she shows up at his house for his brother's blind date, the two of them end up starting a romance, and it was a lot of fun. I don't think that this book did anything exceptional, but I listened to this from start to finish in one sitting. I thought it was funny. I thought it was cute. I gave it 3.5 stars. And then I read Home for the Holidays by Lee Jiko, which was the latest in the Hollow Knights series. There has since been a new Hollow Knights book. She is just throwing those books out. But this one was a step-sibling romance, which definitely had me a little concerned. But I ended up giving this one another 3.5 stars. I thought this was good. It wasn't my favorite in the series, but it definitely wasn't my least favorite. It had a bit of a snowed in sort of element. It was a semi-forbidden romance, but I would call it more second chance than forbidden. But it was good. It was short. It was sweet. It was a solid addition to the Hollow Knight series. And then the next things that I read were the Fine Family series. I say it wrong through the entire vlog, so my deepest apologies, but I read No Thank You by Alexandra Warren, which was a really good start to the series. This one was so messy. We have a hero who is dating his uncle's ex, and he's trying to convince her to come back to Thanksgiving dinner with his family, but the last time that she went to Thanksgiving, she was his uncle's date. And so she feels very weird about going back, and it is them working through all of that and eventually going to Thanksgiving together It was cute. The next one was Thank You Next by Nicole Falls, which I gave 3 stars. This was definitely my least favorite of the 3. It was a childhood friends to lovers romance. Again, super messy, which I enjoyed about the series, but this one just didn't do a lot for me. And even as I'm talking about it, I don't remember much about this one. It just doesn't stick in my brain the way that the other ones did. And then the last one was Thank Me Later by Christina C. Jones. This one I gave 5 stars. I don't think Christina C. Jones can do any wrong. I just love her romances. Hi, editing Robin here, because I forgot to actually tell you what the synopsis of this book was because I just kept going on and on about Christina C. Jones. But this is actually a fake dating romance where a mutual friend ends up setting them up on a date because the hero needs a date to a holiday party, and they end up being each other's dates to a bunch of family holiday events, and they fall in love. But again, if you want more on the synopses and my full thoughts, you can go check out that vlog. After that, I did end up finishing You Again by Kate Goldbach. This was an audiobook that I had been in the middle of, and I didn't have any audiobooks for that vlog. And so I ended up listening to this one, and I ended up giving this 5 stars. I am honestly shocked that this ended up being on the Goodreads list. This isn't a book that I would have expected a lot of people to love. I would expect this to be one that a lot of people picked up because of the cover and the pitch, but this book is not rom-com-y. It's a very messy story. We're following these 2 hot mess main characters. They're not very likable. This book goes through a lot of time. We are starting quite a few years in the past, and then we skip forward 3 years, and then another 2 years, and then 5 years, and we're getting this love story over a long period of time. And these 2 are terrible communicators. They are both utter disasters. They are at their lowest of low by the time that you get into the meat of their romance. They are rock bottom. And so I'm surprised that this ended up being on the list. I don't think that this book was really funny or quirky or silly or any of the things that a lot of those Goodreads books end up being. They were just enjoyable hot messes. I kind of cried at one point. I'm an emotional person. Again, you can go check out my video where I talked about that one in more detail. I have filmed a lot of videos today, and I feel like my eloquency is slowly deteriorating. So hopefully this video isn't too big of a mess. And then the last book that I read for that video was Stuffed by Jessica Gadziala. And I'm not giving this one a rating. I, again, talk about this in that video. I know I've already said that. This is a bit of an older novella, and some of the things that were in here made it so it's a book that I don't necessarily want to promote, because I think that some of the ways that diet and body image and things like that were discussed it's a little out of date. But again, this book is from 2016 or something like that. And so it's quite a few years old. And so I don't hold it against the book, but it's just not one that I want to rate. And it's not going to be one that I necessarily recommend, but I enjoyed the actual romance in this one. This is an author I'm going to be reading more from because I did enjoy the romance elements, which leaves us with 2 final books. Technically Yours by Denise Williams. I gave you 3 stars. I called the hero in that video unseasoned mashed potatoes in a human suit, and I stand by it. So bland. This entire book could have been resolved with 1 trip to HR and a 30-minute discussion. What was the point? What was the point? It was just self-sabotaging for 300 pages. So, which leaves us with 1 final book, and that's The Fake Mate by Lana Ferguson, and I gave this 5 stars. I was kind of shocked by how much I loved this. This is actually the 2nd book by this author this year, which I do think is really strange. I feel like most trade authors release 1 book a year. That's it. And these books are so different. The other one is a contemporary nanny single dad romance, and this was an Omegaverse paranormal romance, which you would not get by the cover. One of my biggest gripes with this book is the fact that this cover does not correlate to the inside story in the slightest way. Nothing about this cover gives you an accurate depiction of what is inside this book. And it really kind of bothers me because I feel like it's such a Berkeley thing to do. This is a really spicy Omegaverse romance, and I had a good time. It's so silly and so ridiculous. I think that there's going to be a lot of Omegaverse indie paranormal readers that are going to hate this, but I thought it was highly entertaining. The heroine is an Omega and she's keeping it secret because at this point in time, werewolves are like integrated into humanity. There is still like a certain stigma around Omegas because they're so rare. And the same thing goes for alphas. Because people don't live in packs anymore, the number of alphas has really started to decrease. And people have this certain stigma around alphas that they're like aggressive and territorial and angry all the time. And so the hero has been hiding his alpha status. This really quirky meet cute situation happens and they end up pretending to fake date. And as they get to know each other, the sexual tension is so real. There was so much tension in here. I was like fanning myself during that closet scene. The erotic hugging in here, man. It really got me. Oh, what a weird sentence. Never thought I'd say that one. And then like she goes into heat. And it's like a whole thing. There's nodding. There's the whole Omegaverse thing in here, which again, you would never guess based on this obnoxiously bland contemporary cutesy cover. But I loved it. That's it for this recent reads. This might be one of my fastest recent reads of all time. I really went through that quickly. So hopefully this video isn't a total disaster. Hopefully you got, I don't know, something out of this, but all of the videos where I talk about these will be linked down in the description box in case you want actual eloquent discussions. Eloquent, how often am I actually eloquent about what these books are about and how I felt about them? So thank you all so much for watching. If you made it to the end, I will see you in my next video. Bye.